Okay. Are we on? Okay, we're on. Okay. Well, this is it. I just wanted to, before we do the oral part, I just wanted to say a few more words. So I want to talk about what I hope you've learned over the last 8 weeks. I want to talk about some of the things that I've learned teaching this class. Some ideas for next time, and then just a couple more thoughts on Java. So I hope that you've gained an appreciation of the Java programming language. From what I recall on the first day, a number of you had seen it before, but I hope you got to really dig into it and see object orientation in action and get the opportunities to use other people's API. For those of you who are used to languages like C or C++, I hope you saw that there's a lot you can do in a language without pointers, that you don't need to have access to low-level memory to get the job done. And exceptions, especially checked exceptions, can be bothersome at times, but ultimately it makes your code safer and easier to read when compared to like returning error codes and things like that. I hope you've learned how to learn new software. Thinking about like all the stuff that you've covered, which maybe some of you were doing while taking the final exam. You got to see new programming tools, new APIs, new new big systems like Maven and GWT and all of this stuff. And this is what software engineers do. You start a new job, you learn a new set of technologies. You get bored of that job and you want to learn a new set of technologies. It's important skills to have. But most of all, I hope you've learned how to solve problems. Take a specification, usually not the best written specification, and write some code from it. Ask questions. Think critically about what you're being asked to do. Hope you've learned how to design stable and reusable code. Right? Think about it. That those phone bill and phone call classes that you wrote during the first week of class, you're still using them now in your GWT project. Also hope you've gotten more experience describing what you're doing using words, their documentation. So things like the API docs, things like the POAs, the README, stuff like that. Learning that when it comes to building up code over time, it's good to keep it clean. And to take the time to do things right the first time, have good tests, have good design, well-named variables and methods, stuff like that. Because I hope you're able to derive benefit from it later in the course. Even though we had a lot of good discussions on the community, it was pretty clear that a lot of you were answering your own questions, going off and doing necessary research, or just figuring out things on your own. That was great, and fixing problems when they occur, because if you didn't, projects 3, 4, and 5 got a lot more difficult. So, what have I learned from teaching Java this term? I like not having to lecture. And it's really fun to be able to interact with you guys, code in front of you to do that. It's much more interesting for me. I also liked the pair programming that we did, the mob programming, seeing what you guys came up with, some of the novel solutions where you succeeded and also where you struggled. I think that's a good learning experience for me to see the things that I need to explain more clearly. The TDD, I think as I mentioned before, I've struggled with a little bit to figure out how best to introduce it to you, how best to help you learn it in this environment. And here again, I think for most of you, it really was your first introduction to it. And so I don't know, did it resonate with you? Sort of now that here at the end, is it something that you think I should do again? Are there tweaks and maybe help ideas for improvement that you have for TDD? Yep.
You didn't make it a requirement for all the projects, which was great. Like, that's super nice.
Thanks.
But not saying that you should force it upon your students, but you might find a way, some incentive, if they submit 5, 10 tests with every project, that a point is given.
Yeah, I've thought about that, and I think I kind of know how to do it, and it's like, should I pull the trigger? So maybe I should experiment with it next time, right? To see, because I think we could. I don't know about. There's number of tests, and there's also code coverage, and so it's like, what's the right thing to measure, and there's like sort of what the threshold is and stuff. Yeah.
You can use any of your in-class classes that you give to us, and then have us devise tests for the classes you give to us.
Oh, yeah.
Make it 5 effective tests for these modules.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I've also toyed with, should, so instead of just, having you guys do the assignment and then, run the script, it's like, well, should I give you some tests to make the test pass?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a pretty, and so it's like, then what do I measure? It's like, oh, great, now don't give you really, really hard things to do, and have, like, you implement that, and that's what, yeah. And so, okay, cool, I like these ideas. Thanks, yeah.
So I really liked, it was annoying and corny, but I really liked that YouTube video because I still kind of think of it.
The Uncle Bob one or all of my YouTube videos? Okay, good. And the guy with the hat. Okay, yeah. No, those are just boring.
Yeah, no, the guy with the rotating hat. That when I was, I still sometimes do write unit tests, and so I still think of that. Like, oh, I gotta make sure I see it fail
Cool.
before I can see it pass.
Good. I'm glad that was effective. Yeah, I like Uncle Bob stuff to a point. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, cool. I think recording the class, like I said, it's really cheap for me to do. It's easy, and I hope that it helped you guys out too. Did people go back and watch the? Yeah. Okay. Good. Oh, good. I'm seeing nodding from people that were here and people that weren't here. That's fine. And then the community. I know Google Plus isn't everybody's favorite tool, but I think that works well for me, and I think it works pretty well for you guys too, in terms of just being able to have a conversation. I get alerted really quickly, and stuff like that. It's persistent. We can go back.
Way better than D2L.
Yeah, the format.
Better.
You just kind of follow it.
Okay, like it better than
I
D2L.
love hearing about people's issues with the Cohens. So as soon as I saw it, I went to Google Plus and I was able to find the patch right away.
Oh, good. Okay.
I thought that was pretty
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Yeah. Thanks. It's also, I somehow managed to pull it off to have more than 30 students. I think Sean was a big part of that. Helping, I could focus on answering questions and fixing things like the Cohens when they were broken, and stuff. And then, Sean did the lion's share of the work really for the course of, grading and stuff like that. We're not quite done yet, but we've got a busy weekend ahead of us between the two of us getting all this stuff out the door. But it's good. And just to fill you in, one of the ways I did this is that I continue to automate things. When there are like 12 people taking the class, it's like I could download every email and click on it, but I can't do that with 30 people. And so if you're interested, all this stuff is up on GitHub. I have code that does things like, downloads the submissions and extracts them into a folder. And I have this gradebook program that interacts with and will record, oh, look, this is when you submitted. Oh, and by the way, it's late, check. So just, things like that. It's just kind of an interesting life lesson where it's like, okay, I'm getting busier, and so then I need to automate more things. The thing I added this term, which was neat, is that I've got a program for grading the POAs. So instead of having to have one window of Gmail open and the other one with the grade book, I just wrote this one application that knows how to do both. So it was kind of neat. So next time, and I hope that the department decides to offer it again, I'd like to do more with Java 8. So this time it was still kind of new. I put out the lecture, and but I didn't really know how to integrate that stuff into the course. And so I'll think more about how we can do streams and lambdas and stuff like that. I hope I get this room again. I really like this room. It was just super cool to have the stations and just experiment with the mob programming and stuff. I hope I get it again so that we can do that. We'll do some different katas, but I think it kind of works to have everybody does FizzBuzz the first time, and then something intermediate, and then something longer like the write the game or whatever, like with Minesweeper. And I too had the idea to do something so that you're encouraged or forced or whatever to write unit tests. As a matter of fact, some of you said, "Hey, I wrote these tests. How come I can't submit them?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you're really if you've gone to the trouble, ought to be able to submit those and run them and receive some benefits for your grade towards that." I need to work out all the details.
You get benefited if you write the test because all the tests pass on the grading script.
Well, yes, one would hope. Yeah, so there is an indirect benefit, but more credit. So, just like the Titanic, we've only seen the tip of the iceberg now of Java. Lots more stuff to do in Java, and what I hope is that what you've received here in this course has given you enough of a foundation that as you explore more of the Java landscape, whether it be as a student or as a hobby or professionally, you'll be familiar with the language, you'll be familiar with concepts from the APIs, you'll be familiar with tools like Maven to be able to take it to the next level. And so there's things like JDBC, Java Database Connectivity, tons of web frameworks. We saw GWT, but there's stuff going back, almost 20 years now for doing that. Web services, Ian mentioned Spring REST, API, all sorts of good stuff, all written in Java, all running on the JVM. Java 9 is coming sometime in the next 2 years or something. They've got some schedule. I don't know, it'll take a long time. I was just reviewing the list of features. Honestly, it's not terribly exciting stuff that they're adding, and that's okay. I mean, Java's sort of gotten to that point where it's kind of your dad's language, because I'm a dad, and it's not going to be they're not going to like try to turn it into a Lisp or anything like that, which is good. But one feature that I think is pretty cool is modularity. You'll be able to break up, the JDK will be broken up into lots of different pieces, and you'll be able to break up your applications to make it easier when you've got subcomponents and things like that to update them independently of everything else. So that should be pretty cool. It's something they've been working on for a long time now. There's also something called the Java Community Process, the JCP, that is a standards body of sorts that has a process for doing things with Java. So whether it's introducing a new standard API or making changes to the language, things like that is all managed through that organization. So go off and enjoy that. So as I was saying, Java is kind of like your dad's language. Fortran's still your grandpa's language. We're not Fortran yet. But Java's your dad's language. But there's Java the language, and maybe Lambdas have given it a little bit of a shot in the arm. But there's still some, very valid criticisms of the amount of boilerplates or what you have to do. Luckily, the JVM, though, provides a really good platform to run on. And so there are a number of other languages that can be compiled to the JVM bytecode in addition to the Java language. So there's Groovy, which is a language that is a superset of Java that takes away a lot of the syntactic requirements of the Java language and lets you, it feels more like a scripting language, and it's nice and dynamic. Scala is this object functional hybrid language that gives you nice things about objects and nice things about functional programming languages that help you write performant concurrent applications. There's an implementation of Ruby in Java called JRuby. And if you're a fan of Lisp, and let's face it, who isn't, there's a language called Clojure that allows you to program in Lisp on the JVM, and there's some really neat use cases that are enabled by that. So, what's next with me? I know a lot of you are kind of close to graduating, but if you've got friends who are earlier in the program, I highly recommend that they check out PSEP, the Co-op Internship Program. Tripwire is a member. I'm on the steering committee. As we saw with Ian, he was a part of it. If you or someone that you know can afford like a year and a half of doing internships while you're also taking classes, I would highly recommend it. The people that come out of here are get a different kind of education. In terms of what they learn and day-to-day experience, working in software engineering, an opportunity to sort of try it before you buy it, because even though you might be able to slog through school, knowing that this is really what you want to do for your career is important. So anyway. Right now we're in the middle of a rotation, but if you're interested in working with me at Tripwire as a PSEP intern, talk to Warren. He's got all of the details. If you're on my team or working on my project, you too could work with technologies like Juice and GWT and learn from senior engineers. Anyway, and that's it. So, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed teaching all of you this term. I hope you've enjoyed it too. And we will finish off with the oral part of our final exam.